Hi, I'm Janavelli, the founder of Kind Community. This is the Kind Community Show, where we share and celebrate stories of founders, activists, and influencers committed to climate positivity. Here we demonstrate how collaboration can help make the sustainable attainable. On the show today, we have the founder of Seatox, Tess O'Shea. Tess is a purpose-driven founder whose skincare range is zero waste, vegan, and organic. Growing up in Ireland, Tess spent her time admiring the dramatic shores of Galway and Clare stretching across the wild Atlantic way. Her experience here no doubt inspired the connection and distinctive bonds she draws between land, sea, and people. Indeed, how natural resources like seaweed can be used as the fabric that tied them all together. By diving in and sourcing non-toxic skincare alternatives, Tess rediscovered her love for the Atlantic. She's here today to talk with us through her journey, her brand Seatox, and the positive contribution both make to people and planet. So here's the wonderful Tess. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jenna. I'm just so happy to be here, and I love what the Kind Community are doing.
Oh, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Tess, can you tell us a bit more about your personal relationship with sustainability?
Yeah, so I definitely feel like sustainability is a real word that's being used now. It's like almost the word of the century. How do we move towards a future with climate change? We know that climate change is real, it's happening, and everyone has to adopt a sustainable lifestyle. I feel like perhaps I was introduced to a sustainable lifestyle quite early on, although my mum would never have used that word. Looking back, I had quite a sustainable childhood. We didn't have a car. My mum would cycle to get groceries. She introduced me to a plant-based diet really early on in my life. She didn't force it on me. She just told me the facts. My other siblings chose to still eat meat, although me and my mum stayed more plant-based. And she was really about living a low consumption life. So all my clothes were hand-me-downs. And when we did go shopping, it was to the army surplus shop, which I don't know if you've ever been to one of them, but it's all the like secondhand and surplus army gear. So the idea is that the jackets and the bags there, because they're so durable, they're made for the army, they just last forever. So should get all our reusable water bottles from there, and jackets and bags. And I think it was her sort of lifestyle that definitely stuck with me, although definitely I feel like everyone goes through a sustainability journey. Definitely when I went to uni, I had a lot more freedom and I became a bit rebellious, and with my sort of was working a job and had the student grant, and I definitely indulged in these awful fast fashion hauls. And I think it only took because when you're a student, you move house a lot, and it only took moving house a few times that I realized, like, why do I buy all this pointless stuff? Like, this isn't good. Like, a thigh toner that I used once springs to mind. And that was when I really actually went back to my mother's ways and the way she raised me, and also, reevaluated the way I was living. That's my sort of sustainability journey, I suppose. And I think it's important to say as well that like perfection isn't something to be aiming for. Like, we all slip up, and the best thing is putting an effort in. Of course, there's going to be times where you forget your reusable coffee cup, and of course there's going to be times where you want to just impulsively buy something. But the other really important aspect of that is do your best, but also ultimately it's the corporations who need to be held accountable. And this is also something my mum taught me from a young age, is like activism is so important. So she would always take us along to marches to put pressure on the people who really are hugely responsible, which is governments who need to hold the corporations accountable. I think activism is an important part of sustainability for me as well.
Really true. That's so true, Tess. So I guess, could you tell us a bit more about what or who inspired you to start Seatox? And was there anyone that told you that you were absolutely crazy to become an entrepreneur? And how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I definitely was inspired by my Irish roots, actually. You touched on that earlier, but I grew up on the west coast of Ireland. And this is where seaweed has been used for a real plethora of benefits, from a food source selling dulse as seaweed crisps on the beach, or seaweed bathing, which traditionally farmers would do for aches and pains. So I was really inspired by, yeah, just what seaweed could do. And at the time, actually, it wasn't entirely going to be skincare. I launched with 2 products. So one of them was a seaweed supplement and one of them was a seaweed bath. And I just wanted to go out there and make a business with seaweed because I just love the capabilities of seaweed. And also, I was at a point in my life where I had just graduated from uni, and I really wanted to reconnect with nature. I had spent a lot of time in the city. I've always lived in quite wild, remote places. So definitely Seatox was a way for me to reconnect with my sort of Irish roots and use nature and work with nature. But yeah, I think I was really lucky as well. I didn't have anyone who told me I was crazy for starting a business. I come from a family of artists, so they're all sort of like, yeah, do your projects. I think at the time they might have been like, oh, another one of Tess's projects, but not phased. But now I think they're proud that I've stuck at it, and I think that's important as well, because I definitely had a lot of failed projects behind me when I started Seatox. So,
and you said that you're growing up. Your mum had a huge influence on you. How does she feel about Seatox?
Yeah, she loves it. She loves it, and I send her all my products as well. And she also gives me a lot of inspiration as well. She's always giving me new ideas and sending me my mum's really into seaweed and natural living as well. So often she'll send me in the post like a new plant oil to try, and yeah.
Oh, amazing. Getting the family involved.
Yeah.
So look, Tess, you've obviously made conscious choices when creating Seatox and the ingredients that you use within the products. Can you tell us a bit more about why that's important to you and your customers?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like with Seatox and any organic skincare brand, really, that there needs to be an emphasis on where you source your ingredients from. And being a conscious business owner, it's really important for me to look at where the seaweed came from. Obviously, seaweed comes from the ocean, and you only have to watch sort of Seaspiracy to see what's happening to the oceans. And it's really important that you don't over deplete this really precious resource. So I did my research, and I actually went very close to where I grew up in Ireland, and found a family supplier who hand harvest the seaweed. So that was really important for me. And they do it seasonally, and they do it in a sustainable way, the way you cut the seaweed, the way you do it at certain months of the year to allow that regrowth. Kelp grows explosively. So it's a really sensitive way of harvesting it, but that encourages that regrowth. But another important aspect of being a conscious business owner is that you're self-aware and you're always learning and growing. So it's never too late to sort of change your mind. So at the time, I always thought that this would be my supplier forever. But now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, Seatox is growing now, and there's some really innovative, exciting ways to grow seaweed in a farmed method that are really sustainable. So something really exciting me now is lime grown seaweed, and there's some really innovative people doing this in Wales and Scotland in a completely organic way that works with nature and doesn't kill any other little animals in the process, unlike sort of deep sea fishing. So yeah, I'm looking into second supplier now for 2 different sustainable ways to source seaweed. And then the other part of it all is having 100% organic ingredients. And that's really important for me, not only because organic is better for your skin and your well-being, but also non-organic farming methods release pesticides and fertilizers which run off into the river and affect the ecosystem. So it's really like a better choice for the environment as well. So I've been looking at how now I can go even further and look, say, for example, right now, one of my products has an organic coconut oil, and it's great, it's sustainably sourced, but the coconuts come from halfway across the world. So now I'm looking at ways that actually I can be like, okay, well, this is an amazing plant oil, primrose oil, and it grows in England, and sea buckthorn oil, and it grows here. So now I'm looking at ways to do swaps to go that step further as well.
Wonderful, Tess. Your commitment there is great. Going that step beyond and not being happy and always testing and questioning the ingredients and where things are sourced from. I love that. So, Tess, I think we all know that waste is one of the world's biggest challenges. Could you explain to our viewers how you took on that challenge of being a zero waste company?
Yes. And I think it's one of the really big things, especially when you're an online sort of wholesale business, the packaging. There's so much of it, even to, not even just packaging your product, you've got to then post it, you've got to then make sure it doesn't break on the way. So there's just this whole other side to sustainability you need to think about. I actually started off using recyclable plastic and compostable pouches when I first started. And this was for two reasons. I didn't have much money starting up, but I knew I wanted to be sustainable. So I wanted to be recyclable. But then when I heard about how little of UK's plastic recycling actually gets recycled, and when I really did the research and looked into sort of the microplastics and breathing them in, and there's just a whole lot of other factors in there, I made the decision to go fully zero waste and plastic free. Now that's actually incredibly difficult to do 100%, and there's certainly, you know, minute amounts of plastic that I can't avoid, so I'm working to be 100% plastic free. But the important thing for me is looking into what materials are widely recyclable. I go for glass and aluminium. But also looking at, if you do need to use plastic, how can you change the behavior so people don't just chuck that plastic away? So for example, right now I'm looking at launching a seaweed oil, but I can't avoid a plastic sort of pipette top. I just can't avoid that right now. So I need to look at a way to encourage my customers to keep that plastic top forever. So I'm looking at doing a refill scheme. So you buy that plastic dropper once, but then you buy the refills. So it's also about behavior change as well. I mean, as I'm speaking, I'm thinking of all the wonderful innovations in packaging, and I wish that one day I'll be able to afford those options and help pioneer those options, because there's amazing research into mushroom packaging, seaweed packaging, but these are really in their infancy. So at the moment, I have to stick to more affordable options for me, and I hope that in time, as these packaging options become more widely available, I'll jump on them.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, certainly it is a journey, and as these innovations can't become more commercially available to many, it's certainly very exciting for us. Just a thought, just throwing it out there for this pipette situation, right? You know how you can, when you dip a straw into water and you hold your finger on the top and you pull it out and then you let go and it dispenses. What if your lid was not plastic, it was still like a sealed container, and you had just the straw that you reused? So you wouldn't have to squeeze the top, it's just your finger over the top, take out the oil and then let go, and it releases the oil potentially. Just a little ideation phase of the show right now.
Yeah, I love that. And thank goodness I haven't launched these oils yet. So I'm still very much in the brainstorming phase. So I'll have to look into that. That could be really cool, like an aluminium, like almost like the metal straws that you use.
Yeah, and it's just a small one that fits in the bottle the first time, or to the side.
Yeah.
And then next time you buy it with or without the straw or the
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
potentially.
really like
Just a thought, just throwing it
Yeah,
out there.
that's really cool. If you don't mind, I'll just note that down. So
That's right. Look, one of the common challenges on the show, you said about the packaging, right? And you've looked at what materials you're using. What are you using at the moment, like in terms of the packaging side of things? Is it returnable? Is it recyclable? I missed that.
yeah. So I use brown paper, and then I use recycled paper boxes for the sort of seaweed baths, and then I use glass and aluminium jars for the scrubs and the face masks. But another big part of what I touched on earlier is the posting. So I'm really lucky enough to work in a co-working space which champions sort of environmental businesses. So I basically recycle everyone's boxes in there, and they're really open to it, and it's great. And I feel like that really is important for me, as well as, letting my customers know that if you do have a big wholesale order, it might just come in a slightly different branded box. I'll still put my Seatox stamp on it, but it's like that kind of behavior change. It's not having everything plush and brand new. It's recycling as well. So a lot of my packaging is recycled from my co-working space.
Yeah, I think that's super important, Tess, for business and for founders, and also for consumers to realize that maybe, although it would look really beautiful, always arriving in a fresh, brand new branded box, maybe, just that transport, shipping, packaging box could be slightly different. It doesn't have to always be on brand, like it's just on brand. It could just be something that you've reused. What would you say to someone that was slightly on the fence with parting ways with their skincare that they've been using for years, but could be toxic for themselves and for the environment? What would you say to that?
Definitely. I think this approach as well, when someone is on the fence, you don't want to go in and be like, stop doing this, this is really, you don't want to scare that person away, but also you want to tell them the facts. So something that I would say to that person is the average woman uses 197 chemicals on her body and face every day. Now, I would take that a step further, because if you're thinking about the air pollution you're breathing in, the cleaning chemicals that we use, the microplastics that we're inhaling, it's just so many different chemicals. So I would sort of invite that person to have a little think in their life how many chemicals they are using, and see if they can start doing any swaps. And also, the thing about cleaning chemicals is that you actually just need lemon juice and vinegar to clean. You don't need these really strong chemicals. So there's a lot of swaps that we can do. But the other thing that is important for people to know is that the huge companies of these shelf cosmetics, their main goal is profit. So they are going to cut corners and use cheaper ingredients in your skincare. So an example of this is sodium Laureth sulfate. Sodium Laureth sulfate came from jet engine cleaner. So they used it to clean jet engines, and then they realized, oh, we can actually use this in very small amounts in skincare. It's in a lot of shower gels, cleansers. It's a real cleansing shampoos. It's a cleansing ingredient. But what it does is, yes, it gives you a jolly good clean, but it also rips away your good bacteria as well. So if you're using this on your hair, on your skin, it's getting rid of your skin's natural barrier, and your skin works to self-clean and self-protect you. So if you're using these chemicals a lot, it actually sort of rids your skin of what it's meant to do anyway. While if you go for an organic, natural cleanser, it has a more gentle effect. No, you're not going to get that squeaky clean sort of effect right away, but in the long run, it's going to be better for your skin. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Tess. Thank you. So what's next for you? And what's next for Seatox? What are perhaps what are you most worried about? What are you most hopeful for when visualizing a sustainable future for people and planet?
I'm really excited about the next steps for Seatox. I'm going to be definitely launching some new products soon, looking into seaweed oils. I'm really excited about that. And I'm really hopeful on the one hand, because I feel like there's a real shift in the attitudes to the environment. And I feel like you only have to look at sort of the blue planet effect and people looking at their sort of waste, and you only have to look at sort of Greta Thunberg, and people are really caring about climate change. And I think as well, over the pandemic, people have really been assessing their consumption. And I'm also starting to see a lot more fast fashion activism online. You know, people are starting to point the finger as well at, like, you know, influencers and people promoting these excessive sort of consumerist lifestyles. So I'm really hopeful on the one hand, but I'm also nervous about sort of seaweed, because I know it's going to be a huge part of our future, and it needs to be a part of the blue economy. But I'm hoping that we can not make the same mistakes we've done with exploiting the ocean for fish and other so I'm just hoping that seaweed is continued to be sustainable, and that we embrace these sustainable ways of seaweed farming and harvesting.
Now it's time for the quick fire round. So, how do you define sustainability?
I define sustainability as making sure for future generations we can meet their needs. So looking at how finite resources we can consume less of, or make them last for longer. And working in harmony with ecosystems, not depleting them.
I love that. What's your favorite sustainability hack?
So at the moment, I'm really loving, well, I think upcycling, actually. Upcycling is a way of making something last so much longer, and keeping it up with what you're loving at that time. So right now I'm quite obsessed with dyeing clothes. My dad gives me his jumpers, and some of them are really nice and they're really good quality woolen jumpers, but like I don't quite love the color, and it's kind of like an old man brand. So what I do is I'm buying these like embroidery badges and sewing them on, and then dyeing them a color that I do like. And I've done it with some old trainers as well. And it just means two things: you're saving that from landfill, but you're also not buying something new. So yeah,
upskilling. Good stuff. Love that. What advice would you give to someone that's thinking about going into eco-entrepreneurship?
I would say yes, welcome, go for it. It's going to be very exciting with lots of ups and downs, but it'll be very rewarding for you. And I'll say, before you start, just start researching and getting in touch with people who have run sort of sustainable businesses. And yeah, feel free, if you're even watching now and you want to get in touch with me and have a chat. I mean, I'm not a big business, but I can part some wisdom, hopefully. And yeah, definitely speak to other eco entrepreneurs and get some advice. See what you're in for.
Thank you so much, Tess, for your time today. You know, it's absolutely lovely speaking to you and learning more about Seatox. Tell us a little bit more about how the audience can discover more about you and Seatox.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me here, and thanks for everyone that's tuned in. And yeah, I would love for you to connect with me on Instagram, Seatox Seaweed, and also I'd love to offer the Kind community a discount code for 10% off. I don't give these very often, so yeah, it's Kind Show 10, and you can get 10% off if you'd like to try any of the Seatox collection.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Tess. And see you very soon. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. If you're inspired by my show with Tess today, please remember to like, comment and share, and send this to anyone that you feel would enjoy joining the community. Together, we can make the sustainable attainable. Bye for now. show.